And we're up. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We should have like theme music that plays while we get set up, like elevator music.
Elevator music. What kind of elevator music?
I don't know. Like theme music. We should be playing
New York
something
Muscle
like
Radio elevator music.
Yeah, why not, right? All right, let's just do this.
I'm still waiting for it to come up on Facebook. Okay.
Oh, let me just type this in. We really need music to play in the background, man. You gotta stop playing something. If going forward, I wish we could do that on this thing. That would be cool. Okay, I should be good to go here. All right, man. You ready to get rolling?
I am ready.
All right. What's up, guys? New York Muscle Radio, episode number 202. 6 tips for a safer and stronger deadlift. So deadlifts and the lower back seemingly go hand in hand. Even though deadlifts work the lower back to a greater extent, why is it that so many people get hurt deadlifting? On today's episode, we're going to give you 6 tips to help make your deadlift safer and stronger. Welcome to the best muscle building, fat burning, no BS fitness show on the planet. Make sure you hit that subscribe button right away so you don't miss a beat. And guys, just want to let you know you have exactly 7 days to sign up for our group coaching program. If you've been on the fence about signing up, now's the time to join us and let us control your training and nutrition for the next 3 months. Put your results in our hands. Let us show you the ins and outs for getting in great shape. This group is not just for bodybuilders, but for anyone who is looking to transform their physiques in a short period of time. For only $150, which is less than $1.70 a day, you will receive a customized diet and training program. And yes, just because it's in a group setting, it doesn't mean your program will not be tailored toward you. Customized cardio protocol as well as 24/7 support from your group mates and us. This is the only way you can work with New York Muscle Radio. Our one-on-one coaching option is currently closed. We are not accepting new clients because we have reached our limit again. Boo-hoo. So once this group gets started, that is it. You will not be able to sign up for coaching until another spot opens up. And I don't think another spot is going to open up because we are the best. And believe me, if you do even as half as well as the other people who have gone through this program, you will be very, very impressed. So what's the worst that can happen? You just miss out on working out with the best, and it would take that much more time for you to get in shape. So don't waste any more of your time, and it's incredibly easy to get started. Just head on over to newyorkmuscleradio.com/transformation. Choose the program that fits your goals, and boom, you are in. It's your host, Anthony Bevilacqua, alongside my co-host, Big Pete Kacharian. Sorry about that long intro, guys, but I just have to nail my point home that this is the best coaching you guys can get. And again, 7 days. Time is flying, so you got to get rolling on that. You got to get started.
Damn, man. How do I join? I want to get involved.
Dude, you're unable to enter the group, man.
Why is that?
Because you're a head case. You need to be in a different group, man.
There's a special group for me. It's not the transformation group.
Yeah, this is definitely a special group, man. Special.
Well, so it's all right. I start my own group for people like me.
Special people?
Yeah, man. Everything's been good, actually. I was talking to you about this earlier, and I've been telling you this the last week or so. I got back into not necessarily a different, but a bit of a change from my old training routine. And everything seems to be clicking really well for the first time in a little bit since I went on my epic bulk. You know, I went back into a little bit of a mini cut. Took it easy, went into kind of a maintenance phase, and now I'm kind of ramping things back up as far as training. And things are feeling pretty good. I'm not getting ready to compete at the national level in powerlifting or anything like that. But as far as my goals and what I'm trying to accomplish, things are definitely feeling pretty good, and I'm seeing some good improvements. So I'm excited to keep grinding it out for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that about powerlifting because, we got an email the other day about someone saying that she was interested in signing up for the coaching program, the group coaching program. And she's like, oh, but do you guys work with people outside of bodybuilders? It's like, I mean, I know our name is New York Muscle Radio, but that doesn't mean that we work with bodybuilders only. I mean, we have contest prep clients, but we work with everybody pretty much. Anyone who wants to transform their physique. And we work with people who are willing to put the hard work in. If you're willing to put the hard work in, you're going to see results. So New York Muscle Radio is not just for the typical meathead. It's for the average person. It's for the mom of three. It's for the hardworking guy, CEO of their company. That's what New York Muscle Radio is for. Someone who works hard and wants to achieve the best in life. Not someone who just, oh yeah, I just work with these two guys. We want real hardworking people here. So that's who we cater to, right, big guy?
It's all about, purposeful training, nutrition, doing things the right way and getting results. There's an abundance of bullshit out there in the fitness industry and an abundance of bad information and, just scams in general too,
Okay.
So we pride ourselves in working with people that are willing to put in the work and that want, the real truth when it comes to building muscle, burning fat, and getting stronger. And that's what we bring.
Yep. Agreed, man. Agreed. So how's everything else? I think back by popular request, people have been asking me what's new in Pete Kacharian's love life.
Oh man, that's like the most non-existent thing right now as far as
it's dead.
As far as news goes. Yeah, there's nothing going on in the news end with that.
Wow, man. I'm surprised at you.
My life right now is focused on many other areas, and New York Muscle Radio is a big part of it. We've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks too, just the projects that we've been doing behind the scenes. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm getting older, but my priorities are shifting a little bit. I'm looking
you're not interested in women anymore?
Yeah, I'm all done with that now. I think I've gotten to that point where it's like, all right, man, I had enough of that. I'm good to go now.
So now you're gonna settle down. Is that what you're saying? Pete Kacharian's looking to settle down.
I'm not looking to do anything, but I'm not pushing anything either. So it's it is what it is. That's the best way I could describe it.
So basically, you're not looking to do anything. You didn't give us an answer.
I'm not looking to do anything. I'm just that's how it is for me.
You're just breathing one breath at a time.
Yeah. You never do that, man?
Probably should, right? Sometimes
it's the best thing to do.
I don't know. But, life is good on this end, man. And Nationals coming up 2 weeks. 2 effing weeks, man. It's going to be here. It's going to be here fast. And I'm ready for it to come, man. I'm so stressed out for this meet because I want to qualify for the Arnold. That's my goal. So I'm very, very close to doing that. And I have to lock it down at this meet. So I have a lot of stress putting a lot more stress on myself to get it done. And I don't handle stress very well, I guess, mentally, maybe. Like I do, not that I don't handle it well. I think I dwell on it a lot.
Yeah, that's a skill to develop, man. It does.
Dwelling?
No, to handle that stress well. That's a skill like anything else, man. To manage that mental fatigue and the stress and whatever you want to call it. It's definitely a skill. It's something that the more you experience it, I guess, and the more that you just let it go is, that's how you strengthen those
mental muscles.
Mental muscles, yeah.
But it's so hard to just let it go, man. It not that it consumes me because that's the wrong word, but it consumes me. I can't explain it. It doesn't consume my entire life because my life consists of other things. Mm-hmm. But it does consume what I'm thinking about. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man, you're talking to somebody who understands that very, very well. So, the way you're making it sound, I'm just like, dude, he's talking about he's talking about my typical Monday, Talking
about getting out of bed in the morning.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I totally understand where you're coming from. You're stressed out because you're so focused on the results. So everything you're doing in a 24-hour period, you're filtering it through, the mindset of, okay, I need to accomplish this. So every little thing starts to add up, man. And the thing about that is, and this goes hand in hand with what I was talking to you about earlier today. You're battling, the mental fatigue of stressing over doing everything right, but you're also battling the physical fatigue of all the hard training you're doing. And your body and mind just processes all that as the same thing. That's stress. So your mental stress and your physical stress is all adding up together, so it's intensifying it in general. Like, you ever have like a good chunk of time as far as like training, where you're not stressing over your training. You kind of just going in the gym, training. You're not stressing over it, and you're just making great progress because you're not really dwelling on anything. You're not forcing it. You know,
yeah,
those are the.
You know, not really any other contest before this. I mean, I get when I get close to the contest, like 2 or 3 weeks out, that's when I really, really start to get like this. But prior to that, I'm fine. Like I didn't really talk about nationals until recently.
Yeah.
So I kind of put it out of my mind. But it's just when it gets closer, it's like, oh, it's like the anxiety is building already for squats. Like that morning of, I'm not gonna be able to sleep. Thank God they moved the my weigh-ins earlier. It's at 6 a.m. So I usually don't sleep on contest day to begin with. So I'm really not going to sleep then. And then like, just building up for that first squat is always that anxiety is always through the roof for me.
Yeah, but the anxiety is not a bad thing, especially when.
No, I know it's not, but it's just
a bad thing.
It's just another stress. But it's like it's building already. Like I feel it building already, which is good. You know, I guess that's my marker to tell myself, all right, time to do work.
Yeah, there's a fine line between it being, you know, too much and just enough, though, and that's where you gotta control it and make sure that you're at the right level. You know, at this point in the game, you know, like we were saying. So you got you would have 2 weeks now. You're saying?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
So 2 weeks, you know, 2 weeks. Yeah, you should be feeling a little bit of anxiety. You should be getting ready for it. You know, mentally you should be there already. But at the same time, being overly stressed 2 weeks out is not really going to benefit you. You know, a day or two before the meet, when you're just kind of in tunnel vision. All right, it's meet day. You know, we're at the 48-hour mark. Like, yeah, you can take it up a level as far as the mental, you know, the mental energy you're putting towards it. But 2 weeks out, man, you gotta control it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying. You know, I'm trying. It's just because I still have, like, I'm so close with it with training, and you know, when you're so close like that, it's like every workout counts. You know.
Yeah, but at the same time too, like I was telling you earlier, man, you're there already. You know, I know every workout does count, but also you're tiptoeing a fine line between making a minor improvement versus, you know, coming in 100% because you're mentally ready, physically ready, and just recovered. So right now, really, your last couple days, last 2 weeks, it's all about just kind of coasting in now at this point. So you could take, I know you won't, but you could take some of the pressure off yourself knowing that, you know?
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah, I wanted to talk about this. I thought it was cool, and I saved it in my email just to talk about. So you know who Tom Brady is, right? I know you're like, yay, sports. You know,
yeah, the guy that plays tennis.
Yeah, yeah, the guy, he throws a ball around every once in a while.
Yeah, that guy. I've seen him like once or twice. Yeah.
Well, he recently came out with his book, the TB12 method. Apparently, it's called. Okay. So it's basically about how he lives his life and his philosophy toward health and nutrition. So I got an article here on what he eats in a day. He's basically a vegan. And so one of the things that I take away, I'm not going to read the whole article because it's kind of long. And it doesn't have like, you know, breakfast eats 3 eggs or whatever. It's way more detailed than this. So on an average day, Brady says he wakes up around 6 a.m. and immediately drinks 20 ounces of water with electrolytes. As he discusses in length in his book, Brady stresses the importance of staying hydrated and says he drinks 12 to 25 glasses of water a day, always with his TB12 electrolyte concentrate added to it. So he's selling a product, but he says I add electrolytes to virtually everything I drink. So he says that helps him, you know, and then he has like fruits and vegetables for breakfast, with nuts. It's nuts to know that this guy is like, you know, he's one of the best quarterbacks that ever lived, you know, whether you like him or not. And, you know, 5 touchdowns he threw this weekend, just alone. And he's a monster. He's a complete monster, but he's completely vegan. So he has a protein shake, of course, one of it's self-branded protein powder, almond milk, and more electrolytes. I'm just trying to pick out like I'm skimming through this. So it says for lunch, you have a piece of fish with a lot of vegetables. So he's not a full vegan. I make sure I make sure most of what I eat is alkalizing. Brady follows a so-called alkaline diet, which minimizes muscle inflammation. He tries to limit acidifying foods such as white rice and bread, but also cold cuts, pineapple, and yogurt. He makes that 20% of his diet, and the other 80% should be made up of alkalizing foods like Brussels sprouts, sweet potatoes, and dandelion greens. So fruits. I'm just trying to pick out some of the stuff. He says, I don't really drink tea, but if I might drink a cup of bone broth. He rarely drinks alcohol. But it's just nuts how this guy eats, you know, and how he quote unquote came up with this. But you know, someone's gonna read this book and try to adopt what he's saying, and that's the reason why I wanted to bring it up. But I thought it was interesting when I saw it because, everybody talks about this guy's, he's arguably one of the best quarterbacks ever. So he has to be doing something right.
Yeah, but he's the best quarterback, arguably one of the best quarterbacks ever, not because of his diet, though.
No, but he's also older, man. He's not young. He's not a young stud. He's been around for so long, and he's been good for so long. And he's been claiming for a while in the NFL that it's because of his diet protocols that give him this extra ability up on everybody else. He also said, you know who Rob Gronkowski is? His tight end? Mm-hmm. Wow, look at that, man. Go Sports.
Yeah, he's the guy he plays golf with on the weekends, right?
Yeah. So he said that he put Gronk on that type of a diet too now to help his game. So it's just funny. People like I said are going to pick up the book and think that these things are magical, but really they're not. These are his beliefs. But I'm sure his digestion is really good, and that definitely plays a part in keeping him healthy. Because a lot of people don't understand that your gut is your first line of defense against getting sick, also. So I'm sure he has probably tons of probiotic. So, I don't know. I hate seeing this stuff, but I like Tom Brady. I actually like Tom Brady.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, too, but you always got to realize this, and this is always the truth when it comes to people that are always in the limelight, too, when you're talking about professional athletes, too. There always has to be a magic formula for why they do what they do. From a marketing standpoint, from a money-making standpoint, from being in the public eye, right? So people go to them and say, listen, what's the key to your success? And there's many times where there's not, but they manufacture it. You know what I mean? It's like the same thing with Hugh Jackman when he got ready for Wolverine. They're like, how did you get so ripped for Wolverine? He says the secret was intermittent fasting. And do you really think that intermittent fasting is what gave Wolverine, Hugh Jackman the Wolverine look? Was that the magic bullet? And I'm not saying he didn't do intermittent fasting. I'm just saying you can't isolate one thing. Like if I said to you, Anthony, you're getting ready for nationals, you're in an elite league of strength athletes, you're a completely drug-free bodybuilder. What's the key? What's the magic bullet? What are you doing that's making you so fucking strong? As opposed to even to me, I'm on the same podcast with you. We have very similar philosophies when it comes to it. You're a lot stronger than me. You must have some magic bullet that I don't, right?
Well, I'm better looking than you, man. I'm smarter than you. I diet better than you. I mean, come on,
man. I got to get some of those things. That's what it is, But you see what I'm saying? Everybody who's at the pinnacle of where they're at, they have to have a magic bullet. When I say they have to, meaning that people will demand to hear, okay, what's the secret? And they're not going to just say it's just I got lucky. I have natural abilities. My body's naturally healthy. And I'm not saying that again that Tom Brady's not doing anything to help excel his career, his health, and his performance. But a lot of times people give credit to things that don't necessarily give them the results that they're talking about. Sometimes they either just have it or it could be another variable altogether. So you have to take everything with a grain of salt. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, so let's see what we got here. So Kevin says, cough, money-making scheme. And Michael Standing says, what, a New Yorker who actually likes Tom Brady? I don't believe it, LOL. Well, it's because I'm a Giant fan, man, and we own him, so it's fine. I could like him. But also he talks about his diet that he doesn't this is kind of what I believe in, too. I don't believe in the idea of cheat meals. He believes in the idea of balance and moderation. So he's basically saying, like, he won't cut back on having a cheeseburger or ice cream every once in a while, but he doesn't make a habit of doing it. And another thing also that it says here that he drinks up to 2.5 gallons of water a day as part of his healthy regime, his incredibly strict diet, as it says here.
Yeah, he's a very healthy individual, man. I gotta get on this Tom Brady lifestyle.
His book is 320 pages. I'm curious to read it just to see what it says. To Brady, water is good for external beauty as well as internal health. On page 209, he cites his water consumption as the reason he rarely gets sunburned.
Yeah, because he's worried about getting sunburned while he's throwing footballs. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, man, whatever. But I just wanted to bring that up because I just thought it was very fitting for New York Muscle Radio to talk about Tom Brady. But interesting to say the least. I mean, I do believe in the importance of hydration, and I do think that a lot of people think that they drink a lot more water than they do. and they don't. I like myself. I try to get a gallon a day. I believe I should get more than that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I aim for a gallon a day just because I'm too lazy to drink more than that. But I know, okay, if I at least get a gallon, and I'm okay.
I feel like you don't get a gallon a day though, man. You
I
carry
barely
around
get
those
it
water bottles, yeah, and you barely drink them.
I get it in, but I barely reach it. You know, I barely reach it, and I agree, and I could, you know, I'll be the first to admit I don't drink enough water. I probably need to drink at least a gallon and a half, even closer to 2. But I get in barely a gallon.
I would love to be able to, you know, like this. Everyone talks about like, oh, I get up in the morning and I have 20 ounces of cold water right away, like it's going to do something magical for fat loss.
Right.
The problem is, I would love to do that just to get an uptake on my water. Look, we both sipped water. How funny is that?
Yeah, man, it's the subconscious now. We're talking about water.
Yeah, magically, everyone listening to this became thirsty.
Everyone's taking a sip right now, guys.
Yeah, I was like, oh wow, I need water.
You know, if you talk about it long enough, and you talk about how the water feels going down your throat and how it's refreshing. And
Pete, I don't want to hear how it feels going down your throat. But anyway,
if you talk about it long enough, everybody listening to this, their mouth is going to start to salivate, and they're going to just want that water. So right now, about 50% of our listeners are taking sips of water. And if you're not taking a sip right now, then something wrong with you.
So anyway, I would love to get a jump on my water intake by downing 20 ounces of water as soon as I wake up, because I could do it. But the problem is I'll have to be in the bathroom, and I have clients right away. So it's too much. I wish I could do that. Do you drink water as soon as you get up? Are you like thirsty when you get up?
No, I'm starving when I get up though. Really? I go for food immediately. Some days literally I wake up with such bad hunger pains, like I can't go more than 15 minutes without eating. I was always a morning eater. You know, and it's probably more psychological than physical, but I do wake up just craving food, starving.
Yeah, that's not me, man. I usually fast every day till like 11, 12 every day, just consistently, because it's easier for my schedule. But if I had time, I would like to sit down and have breakfast every morning, but I don't get time.
Yeah, a lot of times I don't have time either, but you know, days that I'm starving, I'll go for anything. It's like if I don't have time to sit down and have breakfast, I'll just grab whatever I can. And if I got to run out or I got to do something, I'll just eat whatever I can. Some days that's how hungry I am. If I don't have time to make a full meal, I go for whatever I can. You know, I'm not the type where it's like, all right, I have no time. I'll just wait till lunchtime and I'll eat lunch, you know, 4 or 5 hours later or whatever. Can't do that. Never. We got
an email the other day. I don't know if you read it, about the woman. She only saying, "Oh, I only eat one meal a day." I'm like, how the hell do you only eat one meal a day?
No, I didn't see that email, but some people
think they can lose weight. I'm like, how do you only eat one meal a day? That's because majority of the time when people say that, they don't talk about like the snacks that they have, and they don't consider that a meal. Like some people consider a meal like when they actually sit down and eat.
Yeah, it's like, what's your definition of a meal? You know, if you have a banana, is that a meal? You know,
that was one of the things we learned about in nutrition, that you always have to ask people when they talk about their diet to like show you, because like someone says a bowl of cereal, that bowl of cereal is different for everybody.
Yeah,
you know, like for me, a bowl of cereal is like a medium size, like something, you know, like that. Whereas your bowl may be a huge bowl. You know, your cup of juice may be like a big, you know, 25-ounce cup of juice, whereas mine might be 4 ounces.
Yeah.
So you got to get an idea. Just because someone says that they're doing something like that doesn't necessarily mean that it's right. That's why you always got to measure everything out. I tell people all the time, you got to measure, you got to be consistent, you got to, you know, track all these things, because these are all the markers, and this will tell you, you know, what's working for you and what's not. And this is why it's so easy to debunk all this stuff once you have those reference points for you, you know? Because when you don't have any idea, that's when you're so confused and you think everything works and you think that there's a magic pill. Well, again, another person too was talking about, oh, my friend he couldn't lose any weight, that magically went on the keto diet and lost 20 pounds. It's like the keto diet's not magic. He was probably just eating too much pasta.
Yeah, he
went on the keto and just cut the pasta out.
Just eating too much.
Yeah, exactly. The funny thing too today, man, I was talking to someone. I actually had some guys doing work on my house, and this guy's 340. And I'm not judging, but he's 340, and he was like, "Oh, I kind of want to train with you." Blah blah blah. It's like, all right, yeah. So you know, we'll get started. I'll help you with nutrition. He goes, no, nutrition, I'm good with. In my head, I'm like, dude, you're 340 pounds. How are you good with nutrition?
Yeah, if anything, that's the only thing we need to work on.
Yeah, really, it's true. Oh no, I'm good. He says. Like, what?
You know, that's the biggest problem with most people that suffer from, you know, not even being overweight, but just not being fit. Their biggest problem is they just can't accept that what they're doing is wrong. You know what I mean? Because it's hard to tell somebody, especially a middle-aged person, that the way they've been living their life for the last, 20, 30, even 40 years is just completely wrong and just counterproductive. You know what I mean? Like if someone told you right now, Anthony, listen, how you've been training since day one is completely ass backwards. You know, how likely are you to even give that a second thought? You know,
Well, it depends who said it. If Matt Gary told me that, and I consider Matt Gary like my Nick.
Right. No, I know what you're saying, but yeah,
I would listen to everything he would tell me. So
I know you would listen, but at the same time too, are you gonna right away just say, yeah, you know what, Matt, you must be right. Everything I'm doing is wrong. You're right.
I don't know.
You're gonna say,
that's a bad example because I like Matt and I trust his opinion very highly.
All right, so if I told you everything you're doing wrong, yeah, you wouldn't even listen to me.
Enjoy your 3-plate deadlift.
Yeah, you wouldn't even listen to me, right?
Yeah. Well, what's your point?
So my point is, anybody who's not, when you're trying to convince somebody who's not doing the right thing, okay, this guy, for example, oh no, I'm good with nutrition. In his mind, if you tell him, listen, you've done it wrong your whole life, he's not going to be willing to accept it. Yeah, he's not going to. So in his mind, no, I'm good with nutrition. So
some people are willing to accept it though, because I said, if I went to Matt and I told Matt, listen, this is what I'm doing for training. Is anything wrong? And he said everything is wrong. I would listen to him because I'm going to him because he's the authority. You know what I mean?
Right.
But just some people don't have open minds like that. I guess that's what divides people.
Yeah, you gotta have an open mind. I mean, you don't have to just listen to everything everybody says, but you have to be open-minded. And I think that that's definitely a trait that successful people have in whatever they do, is that they're open-minded. They're not so open-minded that they'll jump on anything they hear or something that someone tells them, but they're willing to try something different and accept maybe the way they're doing it is not the best way,
Yep. Agreed, man. All right, we should get started with today's podcast, man. I'm excited to get into this today. I mean, I know we've done something a little similar to this, but this is going to be a little different. Deadlifts always touch me as one of those exercises because deadlift is my hardest lift. I always feel like I'm behind on deadlifts and always want to improve on them. So I do a ton of research on deadlifts and proper deadlifts. And a lot of people think that, my form's good. I just have to keep working on it. But there's a lot of things with deadlift that really will make the difference in your training. And I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, well, the only thing I really want to say about deadlifts is that about 95 to 99% of people don't even do them correctly as far as, even not even talking about form to begin with. They just don't utilize it properly in their training, and they just don't know how to program deadlifting into their fitness goals, whether it is powerlifting, whether it is bodybuilding, or whether it's just being healthier, stronger, fitter. They just kind of throw it in, but not knowing really how to structure it properly. So it's like, if I had to pick one exercise that people just don't know how to put into their program, it's definitely deadlifts.
I mean, even still for me, I still feel like I don't do deadlifts 100% correct. I've been training at it for years. Yeah. I've been doing powerlifting meets. I'm competing at a national level. So I still feel like I can always use tweaks on my deadlift. I mean, I think across the board with all my lifts, I think that if you think you know everything, that you need to really reevaluate what you know, because I think that your form could always get better. And again, strength is a skill. And, the better you get at your skill, the more muscle you're going to grow, the stronger you're going to be.
Of course.
All right, let's roll. So, again, this is going to be a little tough because we're doing this on a podcast as opposed to a video, but you guys are just going to have to pay attention here. So, tip number 1, keep your lower back in its natural arch. So, again, when you're deadlifting, when you're in that bottom position, your back should be in its natural arch. You don't want to be too rounded or you don't want to be too arched. So, too rounded usually means you can't handle the load. So if you're lifting it and your back is rounding, it's too heavy, you want to try to keep that back in its natural arch and nice and tight. Remember, you have muscles that run down your spine. So you have your spine and you have these two muscles that run right next to that hold that spine in place. We want those muscles to be firing to keep your back straight. So I think a key tip here is to keep the chest up to help put your spine in that good position. So I hope you guys follow what I'm saying, but at the bottom position of a deadlift. If you guys aren't sure how to deadlift, I guess I should have covered this before. I recommend Starting Strength. That's a great book. It'll teach you the basics on squatting, deadlifting, and bench press, overhead press, and the basics on how you should do it. I recommend that for every lifter to go through that if you've never been through it before.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too far ahead because I don't know if you have other stuff in the next tips, because I do.
Yeah, don't talk about the next tip then. Just talk about what I just said.
Yeah, so if you want me to just reiterate what you're saying, yeah, guys, do that. Don't do anything.
No, you can talk about it.
But yeah, I mean, just, obviously that's pretty self-explanatory. But yeah, the biggest thing that most people do, they sacrifice that perfect form for just getting reps, for getting weight. And yeah, when you
There's
do something,
time and place for that.
Yeah, when there is a time and place in your training, with every muscle group, with every movement, to focus a little more on weight, getting reps, hitting PRs, when you're doing AMRAPs, when you're testing and things like that. But the deadlift is one of those exercises where, every exercise you have to weigh the pros and cons of having perfect form, what you're going to get out of it versus what you're risking, the risk versus reward. And the deadlift is definitely, out of any exercise in the gym, the one where you're going to have the biggest difference in risk versus reward. So if you risk a little bit, you might get a big reward, but at the same time, you can have a very big negative from taking things a little too far. So you have to be careful, because it's very easy to just go off a little bit in the wrong direction with a deadlift and suffer a big injury. So you have to be very careful with how you balance that. Yeah,
and naturally your back is going to round once the weight gets, heavier. Your back is going to have a tendency to do that. If you're pulling a new 1 rep max, your form may not be 100%. Again, if you're a competitive powerlifter, in that situation, all that matters is that you stand up with the weight. So that's very different versus someone who's just trying to get in better shape and trying to utilize growing those muscles properly. Then it's important to focus on form. Your form should be everything. Don't get too crazy with the weight being used. Don't ego lift, especially if your goal is not powerlifting, because you will get hurt doing that. Those lifts are big compound moves using a lot of different muscles when you do them. So that form has to be tight. And again, keeping that lower back in its natural arch and not being too rounded. That happens to Pete. It happens to me as the weight gets heavier. Your lower back just tends to round because your back's not able to handle that load. But again, we train with higher percentages, and we don't recommend that for everybody. So Michael says, what's the pros and cons of doing either conventional deadlifts or sumo deadlifts? So again, it's depending on how everyone's built. If you read that book, Starting Strength, it's going to teach you how to deadlift conventional, which is recommended for most people. And actually, some of the best deadlifters in the world deadlift conventional style. There's no real benefit doing one or the other. If you have a lower back injury, sumo deadlifts can be a lot better because they utilize more of the legs and a little more of the hips. So I pull sumo because I just feel more comfortable in that position. I have pulled a lot of weight in conventional stance. And probably after this meet, I'm going to try switching back over to conventional, because the best exercise you could do to get a better deadlift is going back and forth between the two. If you're a conventional deadlifter, it's going to help your sumo out. If you're a sumo deadlifter and you switch over to conventional, it's going to help. So I think there's a benefit to doing both. But again, if you've never deadlifted before, read the book, Starting Strength, and practice what they tell you with conventional deadlifts, and just focus on practicing that over and over and over until the form you have it down packed. Video yourself from the side, really get a good idea of what your form looks like, and really, really try to perfect it.
Yeah. And, the interesting thing is, so Anthony had switched originally from conventional deadlifts to sumo. I did the exact opposite. I originally pulled sumo. Switching to conventional, my goals are obviously different than Anthony's. So Anthony's goal with his deadlifting form is just to pull as much weight as possible. So obviously he's going to use the stance for him that he can pull the most weight and do it the most efficient way, most comfortable way. For me, obviously getting stronger is always a plus. It's not there's nothing, I have no problem with getting stronger. If I get stronger, that's great. But at the same time, most of my training programming when using deadlifts is not focused on getting as strong as possible or lifting as much weight as possible. It's using it to build muscle. So for certain body parts, maybe some people have weaknesses in certain areas, like me, my spinal erectors, my hamstrings. We're definitely lagging compared to my other muscle groups. So when you do something like a conventional deadlift, it's just going to force your body to use those erectors more and to use the hamstrings a little bit more than a typical sumo stance. You're going to get more hips involved. You're going to get the quads involved more. So if you're using the exercise for a specific reason, it might help you to choose which is the proper one. So for me to bring up those muscle groups, the sumo deadlift is not going to cut it. A conventional deadlift is just going to have, it's going to have much more carryover, and it's going to have much more benefit for those specific muscle groups in terms of building them. So if that's your goal, you got to pick the right stance for your goal.
Yeah, and also you have to go with what's more comfortable for you, what you like. If you like sumo deadlifting, you're going to be better at, you're going to like it more. You're going to apply more effort to doing sumo. If you like conventional, then you could ride out conventional. Everybody's different. You're just going to have to try both and see what works better for you. All right, so that was tip number 1, keeping your lower back in its natural arch, not being too rounded or too arched, and just keeping that chest up when you deadlift. And really working on good posture will help align that spine and keep you in a tight, rigid position to pull the weight. So tip number 2, and I kind of messed up by saying that already, but tip number 2, focusing on pushing the weight off the floor instead of pulling. So that's another common thing, and I made the mistake of saying pull, but it's just been a bad habit for years. A lot of people think you're pulling the weight off the ground, and that's not what's actually happening. Instead, you're pushing the weight off the ground. So it's a common miscue to pull the weight, when in reality, we want to really engage the legs and push the weight off the floor. So think about a leg press. So you have a sled in front of you, the sled comes down, and you push it off. So it's the same thing when you deadlift, except now you're in the opposite position. So now you're bringing the leg press position to the floor, and you're pushing the floor away from you. So instead of pulling the weight off the floor, use your arms and lower back. Using more of your lower arms and lower back, the more useful cue is focusing on driving your feet into the floor. So just remember that. And I think, and this is just my opinion here, but the deadlift should be treated as a leg exercise and not a back exercise. I used to do it with back, but it's definitely more of a leg exercise because, again, you're pushing with your legs instead of pulling. When you pull, you're going to use more of the arms and the lower back, and that's not what the deadlift is for.
Yeah, and that's always that's probably the biggest form issue you do see in the gym with just the average person.
And I'm guilty of that too because I was taught that wrong.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is? I mean, by the name of it, so, it's a deadlift and people say you're pulling dead weight off the floor. But you're absolutely right that it really is a pushing movement if you think about it, because you're pushing your legs through the floor and you're just you're driving through with the bar. You know what I mean? You're not pulling the bar off the floor. You're holding on to it. You're pushing your legs through the floor, and your body's going to straighten out as a result of that. So when you treat it like that, you're going to notice that your movement pattern is completely different. If you go in there with the mindset, pull the weight off the floor, what are you going to do? You're just going to yank it off the floor. Yeah. When you yank it off the floor, you're not using your leg drive, but if you think, okay, let me push my feet, push my legs through the ground, the movement's going to be completely different.
Yeah, and again, a lot of people make that mistake. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it's just been a bad problem because that's what we were taught. We didn't have the reference of starting strength, but that wasn't the when you started. Did you ever hear of starting strength?
Yeah, I did back in the day. Yeah, I mean it was.
So why didn't you use it? I'm curious if your why is different than my why.
Well, it wasn't a bodybuilder program, and when I got started, I didn't care how strong I was. I just wanted to build muscle. I'm like, what am I going to do with 3 sets of 5 on squats? What's that going to do?
No, it's not going to grow my legs. My whole thing was it was only 3 days a week.
Well, that too. I tried doing it once.
And full body too. I'm like, how am I supposed to recover?
I tried doing that once, and I'm like, I'm trying to build muscle. What the hell am I going to do with this? I'm going to the gym 3 days a week. I want to go train arms today. Like, where is the arm day?
You're an idiot. I'm pretty sure if you wanted to do starting strength, you could add arms to it. I didn't even know the starting strength routine off my head, actually. I think it's probably, if I could guess, it's probably squat, bench, deadlift.
I remember it, man. So there was a BA workout and then BAB.
Oh, yeah. I hated that.
Yeah, it's 3 days a week. So you have your A workout, your B workout, and you would just cycle
workout again.
Yeah, it was squat all 3 days. And one of them had deadlift, and the other one had bench. The other one had overhead press.
Yeah, and that was it.
Yep.
Pete's like, where am I doing my biceps? Meanwhile, your arms grew from incline.
Yeah. Actually, I told the story before, too. When I first started training, I used to just go to the gym, do cardio, and I used to do bench press, and my arms got bigger.
That's a genetic strong point, though. They grow no matter what. Except now. Have they grown? We haven't measured them in a while.
They're sitting about a steady 19-ish, maybe a little bit above it. With a pump, that is.
I haven't measured my arms in some bit. They were growing last time. It was 18 and little over 18 and a half.
Yeah,
I just haven't checked them since.
I'm not too focused on my arms right now because it's like, if I keep pushing just the arms, it's gonna get a little
Big spider.
It's gonna get a little excessive. Yeah. Other than that, it looks like a big spider.
It would be cool to hit 20, man.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I always, and I said this in the beginning, my goal when I first started training was I always wanted to hit 18, and I blew that away, So it's like, and it was like when I hit 2 plates on the bench. You know what I mean? I never really gave a shit to hit 315, But
I never understood that. When I first met you, I'm like, yo, do you bench? What do you normally bench? You're like, 275. I'm like, do you ever bench? Like, how many reps can you get with 3 plates? And you're like, I never tried 3 plates. I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Never cared to. Once I hit the milestone, which was 225, and when I hit it in high school, I was like, all right, I'm good,
Yeah.
I had goals when I first started training. 225 bench was one of them. 18-inch arms was the other one. Those were probably the only 2 goals I ever set. But I just kind of blew them both away, and never really had anything else there. I was like, all right, I need to hit this.
All right. So tip number 3. Tip number 3 is keep the bar in tight to your body. Again, that's another common problem that most people see with deadlifts. Don't let the bar drift away from you. That puts a lot of stress on the lower back. So your bar should be positioned over the middle of your foot and stay there for the entire movement. So when you do your setup for deadlifts, you have to set the bar up so it's over the middle of your foot and it shouldn't move. So the bar shouldn't come forward of that or behind that. So even when you're standing up straight, the bar is still in the same plane, still in the same position. And again, it's normal for the bar, obviously, to rub against your shins, so you have to wear long socks when deadlifting.
Yeah, I mean, my advice is anybody who wants to deadlift properly, don't ever go into the gym without either wearing pants or have long socks on. Because if you could do it and you could wear just a pair of shorts to the gym, and you're using a bar that actually has knurling on it and it has rough edges, and you're not scraping up your shins, you're probably doing something wrong. The only way you're going to get away with that is if that bar doesn't, if it's a smooth edge where your feet are. That's just the only way. Most gyms have bars that will rip up your shins if you're aligned properly for deadlifts. So
yeah, it also depends on the bar that you're using too.
Right. I just said that.
Oh, I wasn't listening.
I know that. I only said that because that's the exact response you would have said to me. So,
yeah, well, you ramble when you speak, and you don't talk like an up and down tone. So I never know what it's always the same monotone speech from you. So,
hey, listen, man. When I get my point across, I get it across.
That's true, right? Shins forever scarred. Ain't that the truth? Some people scar them a little bit more. Some people pull the bar in more. I remember that one exercise we were doing, man, that was helping us with that. We were putting the band up against the rack, and it was pulling the bar away from us, so it was our job to pull it in. That was a good exercise, man. I should go back to that.
It was. It definitely made it a lot more difficult, too.
I wonder if we could do that. Nah, you can't do that with the trap. You probably could do that with a trap bar.
Yeah, sure you can, yeah.
But the trap bar doesn't rub against your shins, but it still help keep the bar.
But with a trap bar, you don't really have trouble keeping the bar close to you.
But that's true.
Because the biggest issue with
the trap bar can roll.
No, it can roll. But what I'm saying is because you're more centered because the weights are directly at your sides instead of in front of you. So the problem with a conventional deadlift, the biggest issue or obstacle, I should say, is that the bar is blocking you from pulling that weight closer to your body. So, obviously the closer you pull it, it's going to hit your shins and then you just can't pull it any further. With a trap bar deadlift, you can naturally align it so that those weights are right at the side of you, which is what makes it a little bit of an easier movement and has less, stress on the lower back because there's not as much forward leaning at the start position. So with a trap bar deadlift, yeah, you probably could use it, but I don't think you would need to use it just because you're going to naturally put it in that position anyway. You don't have to force it in that position.
Yeah, and another tip here with this tip is keeping the bar in tight to your body. You have to make sure that you engage your lats. Everybody talks about that, engaging the lats. So basically, if you took your hands in front of you right now, put them straight out in front of you with your palms facing out like you were punching something, if you turned your whole arm in and kind of like protected your armpit like you're turning your arm in to protect your armpit. That's how you engage the lats. So if you're on the bar, you have to kind of try to bend the bar and protect your armpits, and that's what engages the lats. But that also helps keep the bar tight to your body.
Yeah, and I'd say you also have to work on building your lats too. You know, a lot of people neglect that aspect of, you know, of training too. I mean, powerlifters that just care about whatever they deadlift, you know, they're not focused on any of those things. You know, it's the same thing. Like when I say I don't understand why powerlifters don't train arms, you know, but there's carryover to training arms. You know what I mean?
I mean, the only carryover from biceps, triceps, okay. You can kind of, that's kind of self-explanatory. Yeah. Strong triceps, bigger bench. Biceps, the only thing I could think of is it does help your bench because it shortens the range of motion. The bigger your arms are, the less the bar has to travel down. It'll touch your forearms
more muscle, doesn't matter where it is always going to help you lift more weights. You know what I mean?
But realistically, though, where would the biceps help, man? Are we going to really get into this argument right now?
No, we're not getting into an argument, but also, too, you want healthy, strong biceps, too, especially when you're pulling heavy weights, too, you know?
No, yes, I am not disagreeing with you, but I'm just saying, realistically, if you want to be the best powerlifter in the world, you realistically don't have to curl.
No, I'm not saying you have to curl, but at the same time.
I recommend it, though. I think it's important to do, but there's no carryover. Having a good barbell curl is not going to carry over to anything related to powerlifting. It's not going to help your squat.
When you win, you're going to look a lot better on the platform.
Yeah. Listen, I agree, man. When you take your winning shots, you could do a double bicep pose, man, and blow all those powerlifters away.
Of course.
That's the goal, man, right?
But I mean, going back to what I'm saying about the lats too, a lot of times powerlifters, again, they just focus on how much they're lifting. You know, and the bodybuilders go in the opposite direction. They just care about how they look, right? But at the same time, with these movements and these muscle groups that are going to help the main movement get stronger, you have to focus on getting those muscles bigger and stronger. So, you know, doing pull-ups, doing pull-downs, doing rows to build up those lats, it's absolutely going to help your deadlift, you know? So even if you just want to focus on bringing up your deadlift, if you do that stuff, it's going to bring up your deadlift.
Agreed, man. All right, let's move on. Tip number 4. Don't overarch at the top of the movement. And this is one of those things where I hit my head every time I see that. You know, the people who they get the deadlift up at the top and they just keep leaning back and they just keep going back. And most of the time people do that because they want to get the lockout commands to the judges. They want to show the judges at a powerlifting meet that they locked it out. So they extra lean back. The problem is when you overarch like that on top, you can put a lot of pressure on the spine. You can actually cause more injury doing that than anything else. And that's a stupid way to get hurt doing deadlifts because, you know, obviously if you got hurt in a different position during the deadlift, it would be, okay, my form was just off. But if you're overarching on top and you herniated a disc like that, that was just dumb. I think we cut out a bit here, man.
I'm back. I don't know what happened, but yeah.
Yeah, we cut out a bit. So, again, lock your hips and squeeze your glutes on the top. Lock your hips, keep your core tight, and then just lower the bar back down.
Yeah, and, you know, if you're not doing this for powerlifting, again, if you're using your deadlift to build muscle, there's no additional benefit once you get to the top to lock out like that, too. You know, once you break that, you know, when you break the gravity right there, you're standing up. There's no resistance on your muscles anymore. You know, you're just resting at the top. To go back and to just push your hips all the way through past the final movement and motion, you're not going to engage any more muscles at the top too. And again, you're just going to put stress on your lower back, risk injury. So you know, lock out, go right back down. You don't have to do that extra leaning back. That's just completely unnecessary. There's no benefit and there's all risk.
Yeah, completely. So don't do that. Not cool. Another tip number 5, brace your core. And I'm sure everyone's been hearing about bracing your core. But I would say a good cue for this, it's just forgotten, this cue, you know, during deadlifts. This is the one of forgotten tips. Because remember, people think they're just lifting the weight off the ground, but you have to brace your core. That's important before you lift. So a good cue for this is to make the same motion as if someone was about to punch you in the stomach. So if I was going to punch Pete right in the stomach, he would squeeze down in his stomach so he wouldn't feel that punch. So again, that's exactly what you want to do. And when you brace your core, you increase that intra-abdominal pressure for more spinal support. And then again, it'll help prevent the hips from rising too early and your back from rounding during the lift.
Yeah, always want to do that. Always.
Yeah.
There's not really much more to say about that other than you always want to do it.
No, but you know what it is? A lot of people don't think about that when they deadlift, because you're you're kind of in a weird spot. It's almost like if you started to squat from the bottom, are you really going to be focusing on bracing your core? You know? And like it's easier to brace your core when you're squatting because you're standing up. Right. If you're bench pressing, it's easier to brace your core because you're lying down. When you're in a deadlift position, you're bent over. Well, whatever.
Yeah. And it's also, you have to time that properly with your breathing too. You know what I mean? You have to set up your air in your stomach and in your get the air in your stomach, then brace your core, then start the lift. So there's plenty of things you have to do before you even start the lift. As far as bracing your core, it's not just okay. As I pull this, make sure my core is engaged. You got to set this up before you even pull that bar off the floor.
Agreed, 100%, man. So brace your core, guys. That's tip number 5. Now we're up to the last tip. So tip number 6: use straps, hook grip, or double overhand grip whenever necessary. So again, guys, unless you're a competitive powerlifter, then you have to use a mixed grip. Usually you have to use a mixed grip. If you pull hook grip, then you don't need to worry about that. But a mixed grip, using a mixed grip, so it's one hand over, one hand under, it causes muscles to be developed differently and can lead to injuries later down the line, along with overdeveloped muscles on one side because one arm is externally rotated, so you're going to have an external rotated shoulder, and just muscles develop differently. So you want to use straps as much as possible in training to help prevent that and have muscles develop evenly. I would recommend learning how to do hook grip if you do compete. That's one of my goals going into the Arnold this year is to learning how to hook grip. And I want to hook grip. I don't want to do mixed grip anymore because I feel like the deadlift is a totally different movement when my hands are both double overhand. So what I do is I usually do half my reps mixed grip, and then I'll go on the other half of them with using strong grips. I use the strong grips 100% for my deadlifts. And again, just to prevent muscle imbalances. And I've done underhanded grip every time I've deadlifted before, and you could definitely see a difference in my back.
Yeah, you could tell. You can't lie.
You too, though. I'm not the only one.
Yeah, but see, I always pull double overhand. I never pull under over. I've done that maybe one time my whole life.
Well, one of your erectors is bigger on one side, man.
But it's not from that reason. Because I always pull double overhand.
I wonder what it is from. You might be just weaker on one side.
It's possible. But it's not. It's definitely not from a grip issue. Just because.
Is it on the right side or the left side?
I think it's my left side.
That's your stronger side, right?
The left side of my body seems to be the stronger side. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So you're just gonna have to play stranger.
Yeah.
So Marci wants to know, are the New York Muscle Radio strong grips allowed in powerlifting meets? And unfortunately, they're not. In powerlifting meets, you have to go barehanded, raw dog. That's it, raw dog. So I would recommend, like I said, learning hook grip. And if you're starting out with deadlifts and you're starting out learning deadlifts and you're starting out with hook grip, you're golden. But the same thing, you can't do hook grip every single time you deadlift. Because your thumbs are gonna get beat up. And you're going to have to take some time. So, again, I would always recommend doing some of your reps in competition-style grip and the rest using strong grips. So, if you don't care about powerlifting, you just want a better body, use strong grips all the time because grip at that point doesn't matter.
Yep, absolutely.
You don't use any straps. You just hold double overhand.
Double overhand. The only time I'll throw straps on is if I'm doing anything above like 4 plates. So if I'm doing like a rack pull or something, I'll throw them on there. And usually when I'm doing rack pulls, I'm doing higher reps anyway. But when I pull regular deadlifts, yeah, I go double overhand and I go no straps, nothing. I like that. Yeah, I like going raw dog. Sometimes you like to go raw. Sometimes you want to strap up. Sometimes you want to wrap up. Whatever.
Nah, never strap up, wrap up, man. Always raw dog.
Man, sometimes you got to strap up, wrap up, but.
Yeah, then use the Listerine after. That was yeah. Did we talk about that on the podcast? We did, right? That's
no, I don't think I don't think that the podcast ever got the privilege of hearing that conversation.
That might have been one of those ones that we started recording and never put out.
That's definitely not out.
Everybody's so confused right now with what I just said.
Yeah. We'll get to that eventually.
Wait, so I guess I can.
No, we'll get to that eventually, man. We'll definitely we'll touch on it.
You want to do an episode on that?
We need a whole episode.
Penis hygiene.
We need a whole episode for that. But yeah, hygiene. Yeah, so I do double overhand on all my deadlifting. When I get above a certain weight, for me, I could handle double overhand with 4 plates, no problem. But anything above that, especially if I'm doing reps, the grip's gonna come into the equation a little bit, and sometimes straps are a little bit better. But the reason I keep the straps off for everything up to 4 plates is I prefer, because I get a better pull out of the bottom without the straps. Because when you do put the straps on, or wraps, or anything that you're using to grip the bar, it's going to have to pull the slack out of the bar for the first, quarter of an inch or whatever it is. So when you're pulling max weights, it could mentally throw you off because the weight's going to pull a little slower off the floor. And when I deadlift, I generally like to rip it off a little bit faster. That just, for me to get the movement started, that's the best way for me to pull. And I just feel better that way. But when I go heavy and my goal is just to work certain muscle groups, like when I'm doing a rack pull, my focus is I'm doing the rack pull to build muscle in my back. I don't want to be limited by grip strength. So I'm definitely putting the strong grips on.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. I don't know. The strong grips are good. One of our products. They're good. They're quick and easy. I always hated straps, so strong grips were perfect. Perfect little invention there to get the bar loaded and ready to go. But yeah, and that's one of the things too, when you're warming up for deadlifts, always warm up double overhand. Mm-hmm. And then switch to mixed grip right before, when you can't handle the weight anymore, if you have to pull with mixed grip, or the same thing with hook grip, warm up double overhand, work on getting that grip strong. And then when you get to your working weight, switch to hook grip or, whatever. But yeah, if you don't care about powerlifting, you don't compete in powerlifting, then just use straps all the time.
Definitely.
All right. So if I could summarize this for everybody, the 6 tips here, you ready? Tip number 1. Keep your lower back in its natural arch. Don't be too rounded or too arched there, and protect that spine. Remember, think about keeping the chest up. Tip number 2, focus on pushing the weight off the floor, not pulling it. Remember, you think of the leg press and push the weight, the floor, and the weight away from you. Tip number 3, keep the bar in tight to your body. You want that chest up. You want to pull that bar into your body and keep it tight. Engage those lats. Tip number 4, don't overarch at the top of the movement. Don't lean back and force that lower back to really, really work. Tip number 5, brace your core before you do the lift. Don't forget to do that. You have to brace your core on all movements. So just make sure you do that before you deadlift. That'll help keep that lower back down and keep that chest up. Tip number 6, use straps, hook grip, or double overhand whenever necessary to prevent muscle imbalances. And that is that. New York Muscle Radio, episode number 202. Go ahead, big guy.
All right, guys. Pete Anthony, New York Muscle Radio, and we're out.